So as you're probably aware, last night there was a patch for Grounded 1.05, and in this video, what I want to do is give you an update on that patch. I was able to test it out, so I do have some good news, but I also found out afterwards that there is some bad news. We're going to start with the good news because I think that's definitely worth mentioning here, and that's related to some of these major bug fixes. The Natural Explorer mutation, which was bugged, where basically you would just slow down to a crawl sometimes, that has been fixed. I used it the entire time I was playing last night on both my old save and my newer WoW mode save. So this working is fantastic. It lets you get around the map so much faster. So it's awesome for traversing the yard. The anthill issue here with the food, I did notice that the red anthill had some food in it, and I had cleaned it up recently. So I'm not sure if this was actually fixed. I didn't have any performance issues, but again, I did clean up the trash heap the day before. So some people were saying that the ants were still dumping it in the trash heap. I'm going to go over there tonight when I stream and check and see if they are still dumping food over there. Hopefully not, because it's going to be kind of a pain in the butt to go over there every couple in-game days just to clear up that food. I did not fight the mantis yet. Other people have said the mantis fight seemed to be a little bit better, so I guess we'll have to find that out. The last one here is the one that was most important to me, because I've been waiting a couple of weeks basically to see the final or the good endings, quote unquote, for Grounded, and that's that replaying the goodbye audio log from Wendell Scab no longer breaks the late game quests. So basically what was happening is if you did the quests in I think a specific order or something like that, it would break the final defense, so you couldn't start it up. So last night, the first thing I did on my stream was I booted up my 1.0, my original 1.0 save, and I was able to do the final defense, see the quote unquote good ending. So those were the main things that I wanted to point out. The biggest things were the Natural Explorer and the finishing the game. Hopefully this ant stuff it has been fixed. If it's not, I will definitely let you guys know. Like I said, I'm gonna try it out on stream tonight. But now I want to get to the bad news, which is there were some more undocumented changes, not nearly as many and not nearly as impactful to most players as the last patch and probably the ones before that. But I definitely want to mention it just in case you were trying to take advantage of some of these things, just so you can be aware and not be surprised. So we are over on the Grounded Reddit, and the post here is by Blahubble, which is also Sean P on the Grounded Discord. So I was aware of this because I checked the Grounded Discord right before I went to bed. I was going to make the video last night, but it was just way too late, so I decided to do it this morning. Basically, what he's been doing, and several other people have been doing, is they've been comparing the game patches from one to the other. So basically what he does is he takes the previous game version, compares it to another game, to the current game version, the new game version, using a program, and it tells him all the differences. Again, this is something I mentioned the developers should obviously be able to do, because these are things that should be in the game, like especially the Apex Predator thing here, and then also the Mantis stuff that we're going to get to in a second. So basically, I just want to go through this real quick. These were the things that he said were the most notable. So there was probably some other smaller ones, but these were the ones that were most notable. Spiky Spray charge time reduced from 3 to 2.5. That's actually a buff, because the charge time is the time it takes to do a charge attack, I believe. So that would actually make the Spiky Spray even stronger, because it's super strong early game. You can just throw it at enemies, spam it at them. Next up, items. Aphid Slipper's movement penalty for attacking an enemy now only applies when attacking creatures that fight back. Specifically, Weevil and Aphid will no longer slow you. Other neutral creatures that become hostile when attack will still deactivate effect. So this is kind of weird, is why are we getting penalized movement speed for a armor? I can't think of any other armor in the game that has a bonus where it gives players some type of effect, and then when you're in combat, it just stops working or basically it just stops doing as it said. I know like the eye patch, for example, you'll take extra damage, but that's in the thing. So in the description, basically you'll do more damage, but you'll take more damage. In this case, the Aphid's movement speed is just, it gives you more movement speed. I don't understand why they would suddenly deactivate while you're in combat. So to me, that's just kind of a change that just doesn't make sense. It's probably trying to avoid kiting enemies, because honestly, with Natural Explorer plus the Aphid Slippers, you could just kite enemies pretty easily. So I think that might be why. We're going to get to the comments down below, because there's some people that have talked about it as well. Mutations, this is one of the biggest ones. This relates to Apex Predator. This is something I never took advantage of, because to be completely honest, I don't normally swap between weapons other than going from a bow to a melee weapon just to be able to block flying enemies. But basically what this does, it says a new status effect was added to the Scythe version of the Apex Predator mutation, which reduces attack damage by 75% for all weapons that are not a Scythe for 10 seconds. If you're not aware what Apex Predator is, it's a mutation you unlock, and it gives bonuses to boss weapons. It gives poison to all attacks with the Club of the Mother Demon and some other effects. But the main thing this is talking about is the Scythe. It gave 25% attack speed to the Scythe, but what you were able to do before this was entered into the game is you could actually get the bonus from the Scythe and then switch to any other weapon and continue getting that 10% bonus for 10 seconds. So what they've done is they've nerfed the damage of any other weapon aside from the Scythe by 75% to counter that. I can't believe there were that many people that were possibly, like, they were doing this. So it's not like this was a huge exploit. So for the few of you that were taking advantage of it, unfortunately, you're not going to be able to do it anymore. So basically what this is saying is and I'm not going to read this whole thing. This is the same way they currently handle the attacking speed buff of that antlion armor provides. The set increases attack speed with all weapons while also massively reducing the attack damage for all the weapons that are not a bow to compensate. The difference is the antlion attack reduction only lasts 3 seconds, which is hardly longer than the bow reload time and barely felt, whereas on Apex Predator lasts 10 seconds. That means if you proc the Apex Predator buff while you're stuck doing 75% less damage with all their weapons for 10 seconds. If you keep attacking with a scythe, you continue to proc the buff, effectively locking yourself into using the scythe, only the scythe, unless you choose to stop attacking or swap weapons and suffer the 75% penalty for 10 seconds. That sounds like something that should be in the description of the mutation, because there's other situations where it's a penalizing you and it doesn't even make sense. I'm not going to get in here to all the math. I'm going to leave a link for this down in the description if you want to read it, because I don't want to make this like a 30-minute video where I talk about a couple paragraphs here. But basically it says if Apex Predator is going to reduce our non-scythe weapon damage, it should be a 20% reduction and not 75%. So not only was the mutation nerfed, it was nerfed incorrectly, making the effect nearly 4 times worse than it should be. So also down here we have Natural Explorer. Movement penalty in combat had its duration reduced from 300 seconds to 20. It still also clears when combat ends. This change will make it so if any enemy runs away and keeps you in combat, the movement penalty will drop sooner. Movement penalty speed for attacking an enemy not only applies when attacking creatures that fight back, specifically weevils and aphids will no longer slow you. All other neutral creatures that become hostile when attacked will deactivate the effect. The movement speed penalty has changed to 18:27:33. This should fix the bug where you were overly slowed in combat. So, I mean, that kind of makes sense. They did say the Natural Explorer was going to deactivate. I'm not even sure if it says it in the description, though. I think it just says it makes you move faster. So it kind of should say it makes you move faster when you're not in combat. I'll have to go double check and see if it says that. That's a very easy thing for them to fix in the UI. Down here is one, though, that was kind of a big thing, because they talked about the Mantis boss having its having the FPS improved, or the performance improved of the fight. What they didn't mention was the Mantis boss got buffed in several ways. Mantis boss had the damage of his pollen spawn increased from 0 to 10. The pollen spawn, by the way, is the one that causes all the FPS drops, or did. The damage type was also changed from general to true. True damage bypasses all defense and damage reduction, making your defensive stats unable to reduce the 10 damage. That means if you run into the pollen attack, you're taking damage. There's nothing you do to stop it. Mantis boss pollen spawn also had a new debuff added to it, which reduces the player's perfect parry window by 150 milliseconds for 30 seconds. That means if you walk through the pollen, you're going to take 10 damage guaranteed, and you're also not going to be able to perfect block, or it's going to be much harder for you to perfect block for the next 30 seconds. And then last but not least, Mantis boss bleed damage increased by 20% from 5 to 6 damage a tick. I'm not sure why they decided to buff the Mantis of all the bosses, because honestly, the Mantis felt kind of like decent. I didn't fight him until I was super endgame. In my opinion, the bosses that need to be buffed a little bit are the Broodmother. Feels like a pushover now compared to before 1.0. I haven't fought the Mant again because, of course, it's a single fight. The Mant, I walked in with zero preparation and just steamrolled it. So I think that got buffed a little bit, but it just seems weird that they're buffing the Mantis, which was already one of the tougher fights in the game. I would say it's probably the hardest boss fight, or maybe the second hardest. I don't know, depending on your experience with it, but those are some changes. Like these things, again, I want these things to be documented. So I wanted to go down here and read a couple of the comments because I thought some of these were worth talking about. And let's see, that sucks for Apex Predator, definitely warranted, assuming they correct the numbers to nullify the weapons. Seems more likely they don't want you just switching weapons while using this mutation, so might stay as it is. Mutation is meant for the scythe, and that's it. Though I have to say, having this hidden stuff is counterintuitive because most players won't know what they should or should not be doing, what is even intended. And then down here, the OP post, if it's their intent to just make it so you don't. If it is their intent, just make it so you don't get a DPS increase with other weapons, then the damage reduction debuff should be 20%, not 75%. And then here's something that I thought was interesting. Just to highlight a problem that is about to be happening to every player using Apex Predators and the Scythe, it will also reduce the attack damage of harvesting. So anytime you attack something and proc the 10-second long debuff and go to harvest with your hammer, you'll be doing 75% less damage as well. So basically what that means is if you're out using your scythe to cut down weeds or grass or whatever, and then you decide you want to go break a rock and you've accidentally procced the buff from the Apex Predator, when you go to break that rock, it's going to take you way longer to break it, which means you're just going to it's going to take longer to get it, and also, or take longer to harvest it, and also it's going to do more durability damage because you're going to be taking more swings. Here's a good comment from Holy Kodsta. By the way, check out this. He does awesome speedruns and other stuff, cool challenge stuff on YouTube. So make sure you check out his channel. He's the one that he did the Broodmother speedrun as well as the Black Widow speedrun. Definitely worth watching if you're looking for some high level content. I'm sorry, but why do aphid slippers get their speed boost deactivated in the combat anyway? They already have incredibly low armor and durability, so why remove literally the only thing someone is going to use them for? Really don't understand their dislike in people moving faster in combat. At least add a meal using twinkling shells that gives us speed boosting or something. And then this is a good reply here. Because they despise range playstyles, specifically bows, crossbows, and being able to move faster means you can kite more easily, which makes the crossbows better. There's a reason most things don't work with crossbows. As an example, the whole combat system in the game seems to be designed around blocking and perfect blocking, but you can't do either with bows and crossbows. Don't get me wrong, standing on top of unreachable places and cheesing a strong creature is always going to be a thing, because they can't seem to be able to patch it out, but that's not what range should be about, and it should never boil down to just being able to cheese with the bows, crossbows. Again, I've said all along that I feel like especially more after 1.0, they've been going out of their way to like kind of try to avoid people cheesing stuff. But the reality is this: multiple times they've said they've changed the AI, and they just haven't. And I know people get mad when I do videos or shorts showing myself getting things stuck. But I was literally, if you watched my stream last night, I brought this up because a friend of mine was streaming the game. I watched him stream it yesterday. He literally, and he's not played the game since back right back when like the game first released. So he just did a new playthrough at 1.0. He's never gone out of his way to cheese anything from what I've seen. And yesterday, in a probably 10-15 minute span, he killed a black ox beetle because it got impaled on a stick and just stood there and did absolutely nothing while he killed it. Then walked around and found a green shield bug, and that thing got stuck on a blade of grass, and he was able to kill that. And then shortly thereafter, there was another black ox beetle that literally just stood there and let him kill it. So it was just kind of ridiculous. He's not even trying to cheese it, and the game cheeses itself. So penalizing those of us who just want to play the game using ranged attacks, I mean, I don't know. I agree with this. I don't think the aphid slippers should lose their bonus because it basically just makes them useless. That's what they were best for, was just running around and kiting enemies. And then Holy Custer replies here, yeah, it's not Dark Souls, never will be. And they don't see that by trying to force the player's hand by essentially making perfect blocking requirement, they're actually making cheese more appealing. Add on the janky creature AI and the fact that some people simply just want to cheese everything and they'll never be able to stop people cheesing. This is 100% true. People sit there and tell me, stop cheesing, stop cheesing. Why are you standing up there? And my thing is this, is like, I don't want to do it. I'm just doing it to show that it's possible, because let's be honest here. For a new player, the combat in this game, because it is very basic, if you don't learn how to perfect block, you're basically going to die, especially on WoE mode. I've experienced this firsthand. I've died, I think, 8 times now in my new WoE mode playthrough. And almost every death has been something stupid, like, oh, I get one shot by a ladybug a couple times, or I get one shot by a bee because I miss a single block. And so why wouldn't people cheese if that's the case? The game is super punishing on WoE mode. It's even punishing on mild and medium if you've never played before. They really think that I won't just make 30 rusty spears with chucker creatures from the same cheese spot. So long as there is a way to cheese, players will do it. This is exactly it. And here's a really interesting comment. The most hilarious thing about this is that it was okay throughout all of early access. Suddenly post 1.0, it's not. And then here we go. Mantis even harder. I guess I'll just stick to cheesing with a crossbow. My recommendation for fighting the Mantis is literally just run circles around it, or just stay behind the little stump in the center and just shoot it with salt arrows. That's going to be the easiest way to take it down. So I'm not going to go through all these comments, excuse me. There's a decent amount here, but this was posted like very late last night, so I expect there to be more. Definitely give this post a read, and make sure you're following Blahable on Reddit if you're not on the Grounded Discord. If you're on the Grounded Discord, this information gets shared over there as well. Anyway, just want to let you guys know what was changed, what was fixed, and so you guys can hopefully take advantage of that. And also a couple of the things that were not fixed or that were changed and were not mentioned in the video. So anyway, if you found this video helpful, make sure to hit the like button, and here's another one you might want to watch as well.